The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has embarked upon a 2-day U.S. visit. Scholz will hold private talks with U.S. President Joe Biden in the White House on Friday. The visit comes in the backdrop of Russia-Ukraine war completing 1 year. The visit is also shadowed by concerns that China may start sending weapons to Russia. But there will be no state dinners, no press entourage, and very little fanfare. There aren't even any press conferences scheduled. It seems Scholz and Biden want to get straight to business. But the question many in Berlin are asking is, what is that business? In a one-line statement announcing the visit to Washington, the Chancellor's office said that the two leaders will discuss the Russian invasion of Ukraine 1 year on and Western support for Kiev. The quiet nature of the visit has led to some to wonder whether it is a reflection of a growing sense of urgency to find a new roadmap for ending the conflict in Ukraine. At this time, it is also important to note that ever since the war began, Germany has been at variance with the U.S. on a range of issues, starting with hesitations in Berlin regarding sanctions on Russia and energy security of Europe, to Germany's concerns regarding Nord Stream pipelines, and to the issue of sending advanced weaponry and tanks to Ukraine. The two nations have had their differences. In a nutshell, Washington has insisted that Berlin do more with respect to Ukraine, along with cracking down on Russia and China. But Berlin, positioned closer to the theater of war in Europe, has been more cautious. Now, for further updates, we are also being joined by our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York, and the Major is, of course, still with us. Susan, to you first, what are we expecting from this visit by Chancellor Olaf Scholz to the U.S.?
Yeah, Alison, as you laid out, this is a trip that really is low-key, to say the least. Olaf Scholz, upon leaving Germany, was asked even by members of parliament that more description and really comments were needed on why he needed to take this trip all the way to the White House and speak with President Joe Biden, despite the fact that, you know, a video conference may have been able to do the job, considering the fact that what he said was, we're going to talk about the war in Ukraine and the 1-year anniversary and moving forward. Olaf Scholz, in response to that, said that we're constantly in direct contact. However, meeting face to face has a different effect, leading many to speculate what, you know, a lot of officials behind closed doors have been saying, even here in New York just recently last week during a high-level UN meeting, that there is concern how long Western unity can stay intact, and on the other hand, how many more countries the West can really keep on its side as we enter the second year of the war. So there are speculations that perhaps some sort of conversation is going to be held between Olaf Scholz and Joe Biden as an option to end the war on the one hand. But then also we have that anticipated spring offensive on the part of Russia, which is coming up. And also, let's not forget that Olaf Scholz, before leaving for Washington, really made clear that China entering the war and possibly providing lethal weapon to Russia is really definitely not a good idea. We do know that on the agenda is going to be the issue of China's involvement in the war and how much assistance it plans to give to Russia. And the United States really wants to get more countries on its side should it decide to impose sanctions.
Absolutely. Susan, Major, coming to you now. We have seen growth in diplomatic activity with Biden's visit, G20, China's initiative, and so on. But there seems to be very little impact on all of this in Ukraine on the ground.
Yeah, I think there's little impact on Russia. And I think we've actually seen the Russian spring offensive already starting, and it's quite underwhelming. It has failed to gain anybody of substance on their side for their illegal war, and by illegal, by the United Nations. I mean, going to Iran and North Korea is very telling, and I agree that China will be very apprehensive, and I'm glad that Secretary Blinken was able to continue that message at the G20 that would be a really bad idea for the for the globe, really, because this isn't a fight against East and West. This is an illegal invasion. This is about recolonization, about the global international order. I love seeing Germany talking more with allies and partners, and especially their growth in support of Ukraine, because this is an attack on Europe as well. And the interdependencies of all the countries of Europe on things like Russian energy supplies has had an impact. And Putin is imposing a global tax on everybody, India, China, and all of the West, because it will not come to terms that what it's doing is wrong and how it's doing it. All the war crimes, the genocide, can't be allowed to continue.
Absolutely. Thank you both to Susan and to Major. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.